An ideal Suicide Squad roster along with a story has been a requested video quite often over the past couple of months. I'm finally deciding to do it because I came up with a story that I believe would be really interesting. Now, the thing with the Suicide Squad, at least in my personal opinion, I've never really been a fan of the Suicide Squad. I don't think they are a team that has any reason to continue on after maybe one or two stories. I think their team dynamic becomes way too obvious, a little boring, and really messy, and it is just something I personally don't really like reading about. However, that doesn't mean I don't think they have something to offer, because I believe they do. So starting off with my ideal roster of the Suicide Squad, I'm making quite a few changes and adjustments here. There is going to be no Deadshot, no Captain Boomerang, no Harley Quinn. My ideal roster consists of 10 characters: Red Hood, Killer Frost, Black Alice, Multiplex, Poison Ivy, Toyman, Katana, Artemis, Giganta, and Electrocutioner. This is my ideal roster in a sense that, well, one, I didn't want to use the usual characters that we always see. I wanted to do my own thing. And two, I just think some of these characters would be a good fit for a Suicide Squad. Some of these characters aren't full-out villains, and some of them are even, frankly, just heroes today. Red Hood, Killer Frost, Black Alice, Artemis. However, what I've decided to do in this situation is I'm taking characters who at a time maybe are villains or are more so anti-villains or characters who are somewhat lost in their life and they don't really know what path they're going down. Some of these characters would be getting hunted down by Amanda Waller and being overthrown by force, taken into captivity, and other characters would already be in prison, in which she would take them out of prison and force them to work for her. Even if they are villains, some of these characters will work for Waller to do whatever they have to do, just so as promised, they will be let go. However, I have 3 characters in this team that, as the story would go on, would diminish the team down to 7. First of all is Electrocutioner, who at the very beginning of the story would pull a KG Beast from the Assault on Arkham movie, where he simply would not believe that the chips are real. He would attempt to leave and his head would be blown off. Toyman would be another character who would die, and I'll get into more details about that as time goes on. And then there's Poison Ivy, and no, she would not die, but Amanda Waller would not take into account that a bomb in Poison Ivy's head is not going to work out properly, and Poison Ivy would just find a way to get it out of herself. She is also not a character who would last very long on this team at all, but she would be there long enough to have her first encounter with who this Suicide Squad will have to fight. My story would be Amanda Waller has some very deep, classified insider information coming from the Intergang, who at this point in time would be settled in Kahndaq. Intergang in this world has kind of propped up out of nowhere. It has many governments and military organizations a little rattled because of how much they've grown in such a short amount of time. And it's not just Kahndaq they are in. They have multiple outposts all over the globe. They are also utilizing technology and even studying on technology that they should not have on Earth, and everyone is trying to figure out where Intergang is getting all of their resources. The leader of the Intergang at this point is going to be Bruno Mannheim. Even though he has been leader of the Intergang before, in comics, he's been depicted to be more so of a crime lord, so more resembling someone like the Falcons. Whereas he does come from crime lord beginnings, for this situation in this story, he does does look more outfitted to be a soldier leader of a terrorist group. Essentially, what is happening is Intergang is causing a lot of problems at certain bases around the world that they happen to be stationed at. But in Kahndaq in particular, Bruno is actually testing and creating weapons that are being used for destruction in the city. And we all know how Black Adam feels when somebody goes after Kahndaq. At this point in time, the city is a complete battlefield. It is, of course, the military of Kahndaq versus Intergang, but you're also throwing Black Adam in the middle of it. The plan is for Waller to send in this Suicide Squad team to figure out what Intergang is actually doing. Where are they getting this technology, and what is Bruno's master plan for the Intergang all across the world? Not only does this team have to worry about infiltration into the Intergang, they also have to worry about being thrown into a war zone in the middle of Kahndaq, and they also have to worry about how they're going to outmaneuver Black Adam, considering he doesn't want any other super being type presence in his city. Intergang is bad enough. Imagine how angry he's going to be. Red Hood is going to be the leader of this team, along with Artemis kind of being his right-hand woman. And I also think it is important to have her part of the team too. That way you could expand on the relationship that Jason and Artemis will end up developing with one another as time goes on, even beyond this story. Just like any Suicide Squad goes, at the very beginning when they land in Kahndaq, things are an absolute mess. They're not working well as a team. They're pretty much getting tossed around by these crazy laser weapons and explosions, and Black Adam is also there in the middle of it, in which they're trying to avoid him. In terms of Assault on Arkham, think of Kahndaq as the Arkham Asylum playground, and Black Adam is Batman in this story. Now, in the chaos of landing in Kahndaq, this is eventually where Poison Ivy would end up leaving. She'd basically say, this has nothing to do with me, and using some of her plant-based abilities, she'd find a way to weed the bomb out of her head, throw it away, and basically abandon the team. But I would ensure that somewhere in there, you would actually see Poison Ivy very potentially hold her own, even if it is for a couple of seconds against Black Adam. Now, skipping a lot of the in-between details, you would have the team discover that Intergang has been getting their technology from Apocalypse and Darkseid. Darkseid is using the Intergang as a method to begin the process of taking over Earth when Darkseid one day eventually gets to Earth. His hope is that however long it takes him to get here, or whatever technology he needs to build to boom tube here, when he gets here, Earth will already be in a high state of conflict because of what Intergang has done. You also find out that how Amanda Waller had the information that something really fishy was going on with Intergang is it was Rick Flag, who has been captured and tortured by the Intergang this whole time, in which the Suicide Squad was also secretly sent there to ensure his survival. Now, what's very dangerous about the weapons they're building and using is that if it's giving Black Adam a hard time, it's definitely going to give the Suicide Squad a hard time. These weapons are not strong enough to put down Black Adam, but they are definitely powerful enough to keep him at bay and to continue to fight off the military of Kahndaq. I think there would be two sides of this team, one that is inside of the Intergang base trying to deal with Bruno himself and the plans coming from Darkseid, and then the team who is on the outside trying to keep all of the Intergang's forces occupied, alongside having to help Black Adam while Black Adam is in turn fighting them because he doesn't want anyone in his city. The ones infiltrating the base would be Red Hood, Multiplex, Artemis, and Katana. And then the ones on the outside fighting in the civil war of Kahndaq is going to be Killer Frost, Black Alice, Toyman, and Giganta. I think you would need to see a situation where Giganta is obviously getting as big as she possibly can to try and hold down Black Adam, but even that is just not going to work forever. I think Black Alice even needs to have moments where she tries to draw some of the power of Black Adam through her magical abilities so that she can use them for herself to hold him down as much as possible. But like I said, it's Black Adam. This can't be something that this team will be able to sustain forever. Now, when Red Hood, Artemis, and Katana find Rick Flag, take Bruno Mannheim into custody, and try to escape the base with a mission complete, you would end up discovering something, I guess you could say, sinister based off of the person they are working for. Bruno would reveal that Amanda Waller already knew what they were doing in Intergang, and the fact that she even entered a deal with the Intergang to be able to utilize some of their technology, and they would overlook what the Intergang is unethically doing around the world at the moment. The deal eventually fell through and they basically turned her down, and that's why she is sending in the Suicide Squad to make her seem like she is on the right side of things so that they can actually destroy the Intergang for ruining a deal that she wanted to have in the first place. Mannheim would even give Red Hood and Rick Flag audio recorded evidence or even file evidence of how Amanda Waller knew what they were up to and was willing to ignore it because she would have been able to get her hands on some of this technology as well. Things get very messy here, but also a little nerve-wracking for these characters because now they realize that Amanda Waller is a madwoman. I mean, she was already a madwoman when she decided to put bombs in their heads and threatened them to blow them off if they didn't comply with her order. Now it's a situation of knowing what she knew about the Intergang, but also knowing that if they don't complete the mission, she holds all the power by flipping any switch at any time. So as they try to escape the facility and to escape Kahndaq, there is a dropship incoming and they are trying to board it to get out of the city. This is where Black Adam would be at his most powerful throughout this entire story, and getting out unscathed is going to be extremely difficult. There is going to be a point where all the characters do feel as if they can't just return to Amanda Waller and give her everything that she needs to have this victory. They have to do things on their own. They have to take matters into their own hands. This is going to be your classic, what if we fried the bomb chip in our head so that Amanda Waller had no control over us? What they decide to do is they say, hey, Black Alice, siphon some of his power again and shock every single one of us. That way the bombs in our skulls can't be switched on. But unfortunately, there is going to be one character who does not get away, and that's going to be Toyman. Black Alice wasn't capable of getting to Toyman to fry the bomb in his skull. He is going to be grabbed by Black Adam, in which he is holding Toyman by the head. Their escape is here. The drop shuttle has landed. They need to get out with Bruno Mannheim and the information before it's too late. And within a fit of rage, Amanda Waller screams, flips the switch, blows up Toyman's head, leaves Black Adam a little disoriented, and then they fly away, escaping Kahndaq. So in a way, Amanda Waller does kind of help in the last moments. Now after this, a lot of characters would go on their own way. Some would go back to doing what they were doing before this, and some would actually be changed people from this situation. I would actually have them deliver Bruno Mannheim and all the information on Apocalypse to the Justice League, as they would best know what to do with all of this. Two other major things that would come from this here is actually the creation of two teams. The Suicide Squad would be seen as a failure by Amanda Waller's sector of the government, considering how much information got leaked out about them having a deal with Intergang in the first place, and the fact that maybe putting bombs in people's heads heads is not the way to go and not the way to gain trust by your authority. They would create Task Force X, which is basically the Suicide Squad, but I've always imagined that Task Force X is a smaller, more reclusive team filled with very highly trained metahumans or agents, and they keep things much more on the down low. The Suicide Squad in its own right is its own thing. It can't be done again. It's too risky. But then the second team that would come out of this is actually Red Hood and Artemis banding together to create the Outlaws. This is a team that Jason and Artemis could feel right at home. They finally found their calling, that fighting evil in their actions. This is what feels appropriate to them. Then they go out to find like-minded people who would be perfect for an Outlaws team, being able to fight crime in their perfect image. But there it is, my ideal Suicide Squad roster, at least for this story, and my ideal story for a Suicide Squad. The one thing I do have to say about the Suicide Squad is it is interesting to see a band of misfit characters come together and go up against a threat that they just realistically are not prepared for, but they find a way to come out on top at the end. However, I do also believe that the Suicide Squad is not something that can last forever, and that's why at the end of my story, that team would be completely disbanded. So now you guys let me know in the comments below what you thought of the story or what your guys' ideal Suicide Squad roster looks like. But that is all I have for you on this one, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed it, and until the next time, I will talk to you all very soon.